Lions' 11-game winning streak ended in spectacular fashion, falling at home to the surging Buffalo Bills 48-42. The highest scoring game of the season so far, and a scoregami, the first time in NFL history that final score has occurred. It was a tough result for the Lions as the Steelers failed to do much of anything against the Eagles. Philadelphia flies ahead to tie the Lions at the top of the NFC at 12-2, meaning that the Lions will most likely have to win out to have a clear shot at the all-important top seed in the conference, barring some help down the stretch from the Eagles' opposition. Now, I've said it before and stood corrected at times, like in the game against the Texans, but when it comes to the Lions, you can tell when they're about to lose. They get the ball first and immediately stall out, then the opposing team marches right down the field and scores, then the Lions are playing catch-up the rest of the way. Detroit gave Buffalo a 14-point head start in this one, which felt worse than usual, really. The Lions were able to answer on their third drive with a touchdown, but it was real tough sledding for the offense early. There was no room to run for the Lions for nearly the entire game, which is tough for an offense whose rhythm and tempo derives from a steady run game. The Lions as a team rushed 15 times for 48 yards and 1 touchdown, 3.2 yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs leading the way with 8 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown, but Jared Goff had more rushing yards than David Montgomery. Montgomery rushing the ball 5 times for only 4 yards. Jared Goff carrying the rock 2 times for 13 yards. Long run of 10 yards for Goff. Now, I think Montgomery might have gotten a little shaken up in this one. But, and then also Jared Goff ended up throwing it 59 times. Now, to be fair to Goff, he played lights out. And if it wasn't for a few drops, it would have been a perfect game for Goff, and maybe even a win. Certain moments just did not work out in the Lions' favor, and the Bills got nearly all of the variance to go their way, something which some might refer to by the technical term luck. Goff ended up with 494 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. The first quarterback in NFL history to put up those numbers in a loss. Amon-Ra St. Brown finished with a monster game, 14 receptions for 193 yards and a touchdown, but had a couple moments where he didn't quite make a play. It was a bit odd to falter in those moments for such a gritty player, but we'll get there. Now, for the Bills offense, things were elementary. Hats off to Joe Brady. He out-schemed the Lions defense from the get-go, getting former Lions running back Ty Johnson going early and often in a revenge game for the ages. Now, at first, we were kind of joking about the Ty Johnson revenge game at the beginning of the game when he had one big catch right off the get-go, but then it became dead serious all of a sudden. Johnson finishing with 5 catches for 114 yards, 3 catches of 20-plus yards, long of 33. James Cook and Josh Allen were dynamite in the run game for the Bills and had the Lions in stitches early. There were wide running lanes for Cook schemed up by Joe Brady, and then when Allen pulled it, somehow the Lions did not account for him and were left dumbfounded, flabbergasted even. Josh Allen extended countless pass plays with his legs, and the Lions' pass rush was nearly non-existent. 0 sacks and 3 quarterback hits for the Lions defense. And you can't really expect to cover receivers down the field for 6 or 7 seconds, as Allen was able to improvise and find open guys down the field who were able to run away from the defenders. Even when he overthrew receivers, they were coming down with ridiculous catches. Shout out to Dawson Knox for an especially impressive reception in crunch time. Also adding to the day for the passing, 64-yard reception for rookie receiver Keon Coleman. It was 10.6 yards per pass attempt for Josh Allen and 15.7 yards per reception for receivers. I think that's pretty good. Josh Allen finished with 430 total yards, 68 on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns, and 362 through the air and 2 more touchdowns passing. 0 interceptions, 23 of 34 passing. Almost 200 yards rushing for the Bills as a team. Yardage was 559 to 521, with 12 total touchdowns scored in this one. Now, as for the key moments in this game, The most crucial came towards the end of the first half as the Bills missed a chip shot field goal to give the Lions the ball down 21-14 with a chance to tie it before giving Buffalo the ball back to start the second half. It was a huge third down play at the Buffalo 34 with 46 seconds left in the game as Goff threw across the field to St. Brown, who was calling for the ball and very open, and St. Brown drops it. It was a crossing route, and after calling for the ball, St. Brown made a slight change and turned his route up the field instead of continuing to cross the field as he was, and Goff threw the ball in that crossing pattern horizontally and just missed him. St. Brown made an attempt to turn back towards the ball, but it ends up just slipping off his fingertips. This very slight, almost minuscule change in the route running cost the Lions a huge first down and a potential game-tying touchdown. Instead, the Lions settled for a field goal, which was pulled left big time. Looked like the holder might have had some issues pulling it down, but either way, the Lions end that drive empty-handed. A huge swing away from the Lions going into halftime, giving the ball right back to the red-hot Bills offense to start the half, still down a possession. St. Brown had taken a big hit the play before this big drop, so maybe he was hurting a bit, but still an off moment in some crucial moments in the game for St. Brown, who finished with at least 2 drops and a fumble, which cost the Lions in the long run of this game. Just like some of those things that did not break the Lions' way in this one, those swings took them a while to recover from and set them back big time as they trailed by as much as 21 in the third quarter and went down 17 twice after that. But credit to the Lions, they were able to rally late as they always seem to do. This team doesn't really get blown out anymore, even in a game like this where it seemed like that's where it could be heading. The credit to them, their final 4 drives of this game ended in touchdowns, setting up an onside kick at the end of the game that very nearly gave the Lions the ball back down 6 with 12 seconds remaining. But in the end, after about 2 minutes in the pile, the Bills came away with the ball. And speaking of onside kicks, the Lions announced their intentions to do one with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter after scoring the first of those 4 touchdowns. The ball hung up in the air where Bills wide receiver Mac Hollins, former UNC guy, tipped it to himself and ran all the way down to the Lions' 5-yard line. When he caught it and he started running, there was just nobody around him, so I thought he was definitely scoring on that play, but the Lions were able to chase him down. But it didn't matter because one play later, the Bills ran it in. So that was another break in the game that went the Bills' way, because if Hollins had touched the ball in the air and it did not swing right back into his hands, that's a live ball. And if the Lions recover there and score, they're right back in the game, and Dan Campbell's a genius. But credit to Hollins for such a heads-up play with concentration to take it himself like that. And now instead of being the genius, being super aggressive, Dan Campbell is going to have to answer some questions and take the fall for this one. I don't think it was a bad decision. If it was old kickoff rules and they were able to truly surprise onside there, I think it would have been a little bit different. Sure, the Bills probably would have had some sort of idea what was coming, but the fact they have to announce it now kind of takes some of the fun out of it. So now, what to take away from this one? These are the 2 best teams in the NFL, period. Chiefs, Mahomes just got hobbled, and this was the first time seemingly all year that they won by more than 1 score against a Browns team that's like a chicken with its head cut off. Jameis Winston was benched in this one after throwing a couple interceptions, and they threw Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, into the fray once again with results that definitely lacked appeal. And then the Eagles, they did have a nice little win against the Steelers there, but the jury is still out on the true nature and quality of the Steelers and whether they're actually going to be a contender. Because Russell Wilson didn't have a great game in this one, and neither did the entire Steelers offense. Now, obviously, some of the credit has to go towards the Eagles defense for that one, but also, how consistent is the Steelers offense in general? That kind of remains to be seen. And I don't think the Eagles put up 42 on the Bills, and they haven't faced a quarterback like Josh Allen all year. The Bills are right up there in quality with the Lions, clearly, after they beat them pretty convincingly. But the Bills have scored 445 points this year and given up 310, while the Lions are 459 to 282. Very nearly identical, the two highest point differentials in the league and the two highest scoring offenses in the league. So they're right there neck and neck. If the Lions had a healthy defense, it may have been a different story. Not only were the Lions coming into this one not 100%, as has been the case nearly all season, but we also just lost starting defensive tackle Aleem McNeil, Sanderson High School's own, and cornerback Carlton Davis for the year, along with reserve corner and outstanding special teams gunner in Khalil Dorsey, whose foot was left dangling after a collision in the red zone on defense. So the injuries keep on piling up for the Lions defense, and eventually we're just going to end up running out of bones for the skeleton crew. The defense has played outstanding all season considering the pieces that we're missing, but it's very tough to compete day in and day out with practice squad guys on defense who lack eye discipline and can be lost when Josh Allen keeps the ball and does what he can do with it. But that's just it. The Lions defense looked lost out there at times. Teams are going to give us their best shot every week, and the defense has to be ready. So I expect a heavy film session this week as those newer guys in there review these mistakes in discipline and assignments because we need it. We need to get it straight. The heat is on. It's December. We're in the thick of a tough playoff race, and we're still in the driver's seat. We need to dig deep and get tough. We can rely on the stars that are still healthy so much, but in the end, we need to get some of these reserves to get up to snuff. Shout out to those defensive guys, Brian Branch and Jack Campbell, with 15 and 11 tackles apiece for those guys. 2 tackles for losses for Branch. Kirby Joseph notching 8 of his own. Jay Kerr. But then you look down further on the stat sheet, and it's Ben Neiman, Ezekiel Turner, David Long, Kendall Vildor. Hell, Sione Vaki and Craig Reynolds notched a couple tackles each on special teams. So we're digging deep. We might reach China before the season ends. And it was just a tough game for the Lions. One, they still battled back in for a chance to win at the end. So not a total failure by any means, but definitely a late season wake-up call. We don't have the luxury of coasting by the Bears' coaching errors. We're playing playoff football today, and we need to bring our best. Next game is at the Bears in a week, which will be very tough at Soldier Field in the elements. It won't be easy, and if they're not careful, they could be snuck up upon and lose that one too. But this new Lions team under Dan Campbell makes a point of never losing back-to-back games, so the fire needs to be lit and to continue burning through the end of the season and into February. And if Dan Campbell was serious when he implied that they're taking 20 games into account, then we got to win out. You got to put up. Put up or shut up. Failure from here on out is not an option, and ultimately, it may be up to this ramshackle defense to carry us onward to victory. So, one more week in the system for some of these guys. Another week of game experience against, probably the best team in the NFL right now. So, iron sharpens iron. Hopefully, it's only going to make them better. But, yeah, they're going to have to bring it against this Bears team. And, frankly, with the Bears team struggling like they are, you just got to come out and embarrass them. We got to try and take it up a notch and leave no room for any guessing, no room for the naysayers, because people are going to be talking. They're going to be talking down against the Lions. We're already seeing it right now in some of these social media comments. Dan Campbell, overrated. Lions frauds. Lions overrated. Lions not going to be able to finish down the stretch. Well, now it's even more important to put that performance on the field and really take it to the league once again. It's not going to get any easier from here on out. It's only going to get more difficult. So bring your best. Take this one as a learning opportunity and pay it forward as we try and go for that ever elusive Lombardi Trophy and bring it to Detroit.